wait. This is not Metal Gear Solid 4. This is Fallout 3. This is Metal Gear Solid 4. In this long delayed review, I finally get to review one of my favorite video games. But that's not to say that it's not flawed. It really is, sadly. Unfortunately, the Metal Gear series is really hampered down by its own lore, its own backstory. So a lot of the video game kind of centers around the story of the previous games. And the game also kind of suffers from another problem. It doesn't know whether it wants to be an action video game or whether it wants to be a stealth video game or whether it wants to have be story driven. All video games to some extent are a little bit of a mesh of everything, but this feels more like a clump. You know, it's good. It's just very confusing in what people have been trying to make it into. It's a good game in the sense that it closes all of the story within the video game itself, and it closes all the lore, and it's everything of that in a nice, neat little bundle. However, like all Metal Gear video games, the gameplay suffers from the cutscenes, and at least they're skippable. I'll give it that. At least you can just outright skip them. And anyone that's never played the Metal Gear Solid game is going to look at the cutscenes and just get lost. I don't blame it. How do you explain what's really going on without that main story? Having said that, it's not a terrible game. When you do get into the gameplay, it is really good gameplay. It's compelling, it's over the shoulder, it doesn't rely on too much of cover tactics, but rather stealth tactics with a lot of combat in between. So it's good in that sense. It's not really good in the sense of the amount of playtime. This game had online features when it debuted, and I think that's partially where the gameplay suffers from and partially from the cutscenes. But Metal Gear games have always had a ton of story and hours upon hours of cutscenes, and it just, to a certain extent, feels like verbal diarrhea rather than actual dialogue. But despite that, I would have to say that this game, for the most part, is, at least for me, is a rent. It's not it's not a gem, but it's not the worst video game I've ever played. It has to be a rent. I hate to give that rating to this video game, but unfortunately, that's what it has to get.